Hello and welcome. This is from the CBN. We bring to you weekly reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies, and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. I am William Dada. The Monetary Policy Committee of the Central Bank of Nigeria held its bi-monthly meeting last week Monday, where it decided to leave the benchmark interest rate and other policy parameters constant, concerned about the marginal increase in headline inflation to 15.70% year-on-year in February from 15.60% in January. Today on the program, we'll bring you details of the committee's considerations in arriving at the decision to hold, as well as a question and answer session of the MPC press briefing. But first, let's bring you up to speed on the top stories from the Apex Bank this week. Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, on Thursday, 24th of March, unveiled the second National Maize Pyramid under the Ma'an CBN Anchor Borrowers Program in Kaduna State. The maize revolution was birthed over 6 years ago under the Anchor Borrowers Program, with the overall objectives of facilitating food security. Before then, growth of maize production in the country has been largely due to increase in hectares of land cultivated and not due yields per hectare. To address the yield challenge, the CBN developed a framework for the participation of seed companies in the 2021 wet season farming under the ABP to produce hybrid seeds that will guarantee high yield for farmers. At the unveiling of the 21 maize pyramids, CBN Governor Mr. Godwin Emefiele, who was represented by the Director, Development Finance Department, Mr. Yila Yusuf, said maize demand in Nigeria increases at an average of 3.2% per annum due to population increase and urbanization.
The idea behind the pyramid is not just to be able to show Nigerians, that indeed the pyramids you used to see in the olden days can be brought back. But it's also a way of us guaranteeing loan repayment from the farmers. So we encourage them to aggregate into a location. And as you see these pyramids here, the banks will now take custody of what you see and in the other warehouses. And then for maize, for instance, we'll put it into a strategic reserve, which we now release to Poultry Association of Nigeria and the feed millers, for them to be able to moderate prices. So once they get it at moderate prices, that translates into the pricing that you see for feed mills, for those who do poultry, and also for things like cornflakes and co.
Similarly, the CBN has expressed its determination to help double wheat production from the current 150,000 hectares to about 300,000 hectares in the next planting season, training more than 250 extension workers to reach about 120,000 wheat farmers. CBN Governor Mr. Godwin Emefiele, represented by the CBN Dutse Branch Controller Saadatu Ibrahim Aminu during the launch of the 2021-2022 Brown Day and Wheat Harvest at Gabarin Village in Ringim local government area of Jigawa State last week Thursday, said the objective of the new target is to cut wheat importation into the country by 60% in the next 2 years through increased production. Nigeria spent about $2 billion annually to import over 5 million metric tons of wheat to meet local demand, making it one of the highest food import bills. The world is currently feeling the heat on wheat import as Russia and Ukraine, which account for over 30% of wheat export, have been at war for about a month now. Mr. Emefiele said the bank had commissioned 4 seed companies to process 25,000 metric tons for the next planting season. It had also facilitated and financed a seed multiplication program that would help sustain the propagation of high-yielding seeds and guarantee its availability. Meanwhile, the CBN Governor, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, has revealed the reason behind the bank's huge interventions in Nigeria's agricultural sector. On Monday, 28th of March, at the 25th and 26th Combined Convocation Lecture of the Ekiti State University, Ado-Ekiti, CBN Governor, who was represented by the Deputy Governor, Corporate Services, Mr. Edward Adamu, noted that the interventions became necessary as the non-oil sector, particularly agricultural and manufacturing sectors, which contribute about 30 and 13% respectively to the country's GDP, were faced with low investment, inadequate credit to real sector, and weak infrastructure. Mr. Emefiele announced that the Apex Bank had provided $948 billion to about 4.5 million smallholder farmers in the country to boost food production, creating 12.5 million direct and indirect jobs for Nigerians. He added that with annual population growth rate of 2.8%, it was important that the all-needed support be given to sectors which have the potential to absorb the youth.
Today, our manufacturing sector contributes less than 15% of GDP. More worrisome is that the country has been importing many commodities, which it has the ability to locally produce and even export, such as rice, maize, milk, and dairy products. Addressing this challenge has been a key task for the Central Bank of Nigeria. Spurred by the enormous support of the President Muhammadu Buhari, we are determined to reverse this ugly trend. Efforts have been dedicated to building a more productive society by encouraging Nigerians to imbibe the mantra, we must produce what we eat, as it will aid job and wealth creation in our great nation, Nigeria. Our intervention, which has been targeted at critical sectors of the economy, is not new. Economic history has documented that central banks' interventions date back to the early 1920s. Some central banks in advanced economies played an important role in financing of government programs and projects in the early days. For example, the Deutsche Bundesbank of Germany in rebuilding the country after World War II. Two central banks are known to have been actively involved in financing government programs and projects in recent times. And these are Banco Central of Brazil, that's the Central Bank of Brazil, and the Bank Negara Malaysia, the Central Bank of Malaysia, both of which are developing countries. While some critics have frowned at this approach, the global financial crisis of 2008-2009 and the associated economic downturn apparently opened another wave of debate among economists on the role of central banks during economic downturns. Interestingly, during the crisis, both advanced and emerging market central banks embraced quantitative easing to support the economy towards recovery.
North, South, East or West, male or female, old school or millennial, rural or urban, the Naira is the same, and so is the e-Naira. The e-Naira is a legal tender issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So, let's embrace it. The e-Naira will foster financial inclusion, improve access to credit, facilitate cross-border remittances, and it's easier to transfer. E-Naira, same Naira, more possibilities. This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN.
Thanks for staying tuned. And if you're just joining us, you're watching from the CBN, a weekly program that brings to you reports and expert analysis of the actions, policies, and economic initiatives of the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN. The Central Bank of Nigeria's Monetary Policy Committee, MPC, at its March meeting noted with concern the impact which the global price increase in petroleum and other products is having practically on all economies. The committee further noted that this has resulted in imported inflation on the Nigerian economy and believes that specific actions needed to be taken to ensure that the trend does not continue, given the adverse effects an aggressive rising price level could have on the cost of living and purchasing powers of Nigerians.
Before the Russian-Ukraine war, MPC was optimistic that the moderate decline in inflation was sustainable due to the positive impact of good harvest on price levels. The MPC worries today that whereas global prices have gone up, this has been compounded by shortage of supply of petroleum products. In the short run, MPC urges NNPC to take urgent steps to ensure adequate supply of petroleum products in Nigeria so as to reduce the rate of arbitrary increase in price of these petroleum products by oil marketers. The committee noted with grave concern the unprecedented rate of oil theft recorded in recent times and its debilitating impact on government revenue and accretion to reserve. In the medium term, MPC is hopeful that the proposed takeoff of the Dangote refinery in the course of the year would help to improve the supply of petroleum products in Nigeria. MPC also note that the rising price of diesel is compounded by the problem of inadequate electricity supply in Nigeria, which has adversely impacted domestic prices. MPC advises the CBN management and the fiscal authorities to take specific and urgent action to avoid many power generating stations shut down for turnaround maintenance, resulting in the current unwarranted shutdown of our generating assets. MPC is relieved that food inflation declined marginally due to good harvest. Although some scarcity is expected as we approach the planting season, the committee is optimistic that with a high level of strategic grain reserves of the CBN, it is relieved that food prices will remain relatively moderated. MPC further advised management to redouble its development finance initiatives aimed at boosting domestic food output, which would help in moderating food inflation going forward, and by extension, headline inflation could get moderated.
While growth has continued to improve, MPC members noted that the substantial upward push to price levels continued to be influenced by supply-side factors such as the scarcity of PMS, persistent insecurity, and backlash from the Russia-Ukraine war, which require careful and focused policy intervention to address and resolve. It urged the bank to continue using the tools at its disposal while increasing its collaboration with the fiscal authority to ensure that inflation is adequately reined in and growth is returned to a strong and sustainable path.
The committee also encouraged the bank to continue the use of its intervention mechanisms to deploy funds to the output-stimulating and employment-generating sectors of our economy. Members were of the view that tightening the stance of policy to rein inflation could adversely impact the fragile recovery of output growth and may stifle the expected investment expansion. On the strength of the above considerations, 3 members voted to raise MPR by 25 basis points, 1 member voted to raise MPR by 50 basis points, while 6 members voted to hold all parameters constant. Those who voted to raise rates, though few, feel the need to signal further tightened stance to rein in inflation. The committee thus decided by a majority vote to retain the MPR at 11.5%. In summary, MPC voted 1 to retain MPR at 11.5%, 2 retain the asymmetric corridor of plus 100 and minus 700 basis points around the MPR, and 3 retain CRR at 27.5%, and 4 retain the liquidity ratio at 30%.
In its outlook for the domestic economy, the MPC noted that available data on key macroeconomic indicators suggests the likelihood of subdued output growth for the most part of 2022.
This is hinged on the dampening impact to growth of rising energy prices in the domestic economy, tightening external financial conditions as some advanced economies pursue interest rate liftoff, as well as the persistence of legacy security and infrastructural problems. It is however expected that monetary and fiscal stimulus will remain in place to continue to support the recovery until downside risk to growth and the upside risk to inflation dissipate substantially. Accordingly, the Nigerian economy is forecast to grow in 2022 by 3.24% CBN estimate, 4.2% federal government estimate, and 2.7% IMF estimate.
Oh, I see. Just hold on. In that case, let me call out my PIN. It is 41.
Uncle, please stop.
Stop what?
You're giving someone else your personal identification number PIN?
Oh, not someone else. It's from my bank.
Please hang up, Uncle. That's a fraudster.
That's not true. But they call out my full name. I am sure this is from my bank.
Uncle, no bank is ever going to call you to ask for your personal identification number, PIN, your mobile banking password, or your card verification code, CVC.
But it sounded so genuine.
Yes, hackers and fraudsters always sound genuine. But please, Uncle, don't fall for their bait. Don't respond to any phony emails, text message, SMS, and don't click on any link you're not sure of.
Even if they call your date of birth or your BVN, don't give them your security details.
If you suspect any issue with your account, please go to your bank.
Oh, I see.
This message is from the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The NPC press briefing is usually followed by a question and answer session where journalists from various organizations seek further clarifications on salient financial and economic issues. The March NPC was not different, and here's how the session went.
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor and members of the NPC. My concern actually is still on the Russia-Ukrainian crisis. This has led to a bit of a spike in inflation across the globe. I want to know what NPC will do in specifics to help Nigeria's situation, because petrol and diesel is rising, and it has a very, very significant effect on the other parts of the economy. Thank you.
What press do you represent?
Oh, the Sun, please. The Sun.
Sun, okay. The inflation that we're seeing from the core side came primarily because of supply shortage. Because if you check primarily everywhere, whether in Abuja, in Lagos, or most of the centers, there still remains fuel queue everywhere. So what you find is that because there's this fuel queue arising largely from supply shortages, there is arbitrary increase in prices by retail marketers because they are not sure whether they will get more diesel after they've sold their stock. In fact, they are pricing what they are holding based on their expectation of their replacement price. So I don't know, somebody was saying yesterday when I was at a session that even the price of diesel had risen to almost about 700 or even 800 naira per liter. So what are we therefore saying? We will try as much as possible, and we were told at this meeting today by the representative of finance, the PAMSEC Finance, that the Minister of Finance and then NPC are holding engagements to see to what can be done to make sure that adequate funding is provided so that petroleum products is made available, so that they can be imported, and then all our filling stations can have these products. We are also saying we'll be engaging in NPC as well. If there's any kind of intervention that we can provide to help it, make it easy for them to bring in these products, so that this shortage can stop, then we will see that when supply increases and people are relatively confident that when they sell whatever they are holding in petrol or diesel stock, that they can easily go and replace them, then the arbitrary price increases will reduce. When arbitrary price reduces, of course, we can begin to see that there will be gradual moderation in the price of this product, which would ultimately result in the moderation in the prices of other products whose prices would have gone up as a result of the arbitrary increase in the price of these items. This is simply how we think we can work with the CBN.
They just concluded IMF Article 4 consultation report, which urged the central bank to scale back on its credit intervention as they are likely to cause market distortions in the long run. And listening to you today, we are hearing the MPC ask the development finance to redouble its intervention, and you said monetary and fiscal stimulus will continue to remain in place until downside risks go down. So what exactly are your response to the IMF? Thank you very much, Mr. Governor.
The truth is that International Monetary Fund, I have to admit, has been a great supporter as well as advisor to the Central Bank of Nigeria and to Nigeria, because it's important that we underscore the support that we have always received from the IMF. And now I will highlight two. In 2020, as a result of COVID, the IMF opened its vaults to all countries, particularly emerging markets, for us to draw on the RFI facility loan. Nigeria got the highest in Africa of almost $3.4 billion. It has helped us, aided us in resolving some of our problems, particularly during the period of COVID. In 2021, again, when they also saw, is it the second or third wave, IMF came up again and said, look, they were going to increase the special drawing rights, the SDR, and we also benefited to the tune of even above $3 billion. So have they been very helpful? I like to underscore it, that they have been extremely helpful to the countries that are working with them. I guess when you appreciate somebody for a good job, hopefully they will do more, even in 2022 and 2023, because no doubt I have read that even central bankers are already talking that, look, this Russia-Ukraine crisis, how it is affecting them, and how they will need some kind of support and bridging support to be able to overcome some of the challenges. However, in terms of advice, I think it's important that we reiterate the fact that the Central Bank of Nigeria remains a development finance-oriented central bank. And it is normal, it is very, very normal for an emerging market or developing economy to deploy development finance tools through interventions to support the growth of the economy. Let's not forget, about 2 years ago, monetary policy said that our new thrust will be price and monetary stability that is conducive to growth. If we are to adopt price and monetary stability that is conducive to growth, in an environment where there is a tight fiscal space, where revenue shortfalls abound, and even government has to borrow, then I think it is just reasonable that central banks should step in to support the fiscal, to fill that space, not through grants, but through loans to our smallholder farmers, through loans to our small and medium enterprise businesses, through loans to our households, through loans to wake up our manufacturing industries that are dead. And I can say that in the last 2.5 years, we've done certainly more than 3 trillion naira, whether we like it or not. And IMF themselves agree that, for instance, the amount over 300 billion that we've disbursed to almost 1 million households helped to catalyze consumption expenditure that has helped Nigeria to turn positive in its GDP, even though GDP is still fragile and we still face vulnerabilities.
Good afternoon, Mr. Governor and other members of the MPC. I am Nancy Naji, the Executive Producer of Money Line Nancy on AIT. I have 2 questions. The first question is on Infraco. I remember I asked that question in November of 2021, and you gave a response. I would like to know the status of Infraco, the 15 trillion naira, and whatever the status on Infraco.
Now, Infraco is set up, the board is running, MD has been appointed, asset managers have been appointed. We have currently 3 assets that are under finance. We've done some bridge finance of almost about 200 billion naira for that purpose. The remaining sums, the asset managers are going to be going into the data room to see the numbers, to determine viability of those roads, traffic counts, Lagos Ibadan, Abuja Kano Kaduna AKK project, as well as the second Niger bridge, which is almost completed now. So I'm sure we are only meant to complete the funding that federal government has put into it before now. And we will do it.
My name is Leah Katumba Batunde, and I report for the Nigerian Television Authority. I have concerns arising from the power sector and, of course, the unavailable electricity that we've been battling in the country. You made mention of some monies running into trillions that has been injected by the central bank into that sector and various interventions. What can we possibly do to improve the level of power generation and distribution in the country since you've done this much?
I think I've addressed the issue of power shortage, what we're doing, what gave rise to this, and I believe in the coming days we will see an improvement in power in the country. I think that's just one promise I'd like to make.
That's all from the CBN this week. You can report unresolved banking issues to the CBN Consumer Protection Department through the email address cpd@cbn.gov.ng with relevant documents. Call the CBN Contact Center using the phone line +234 700 2255 226. Local call rates may apply. Send your inquiries and comments to the dedicated email address from the CBN@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter for updates and uploaded episodes of the program. We invite you to join us again next time. I'm William Dada. Stay safe and bye for now.